Okay, so good afternoon to all those who've joined from India and like really very early morning to you, Mark. But thank you for being here. And Mark Vandalen, and I got this pronunciation right this time, is based in Switzerland, close to Switzerland, let's say. I still don't know that exact place, but let's say close to Switzerland. But thank you so much, really, for making the time to join us again. We had a session earlier last month where Mark led us through a teaser, let's say, of what conversations that matter is all about. And today's session is really focused on answering any questions, and we've received multiple questions. So answering some of those questions, but it's just such a joy to share this space with Mark and mm, almost make a declaration of our intent that has been born through our friendship and connection over so many years. And I'm so, so happy to be bringing this program, Conversations That Matter, with Mark to India starting next month. So, like I said, there are a number of questions that came in, and to ensure that we spend a meaningful hour together, I have woven them into some sort of a story that makes sense. And I'm, going to be like a moderator for this session and ask Mark to respond to those questions. And of course, there's anything that comes up for you, if there is something that's on your mind that gets evoked or that's already been on your mind, then just, maybe type it into the chat box. But we will definitely have time in the end to hear your voice and to also, any other questions that are still to be answered beyond the ones that we received. So, shall we just like jump in, Mark, and everyone else here today?
Yeah, let's jump in.
Yeah, but before we do that, just want to also especially acknowledge our my back to source team. It's really Priyanka is here, Monica is not here, who does all our graphics and brings this out into the world through her creativity, and Nidhi, who's also part of our team, but for their like absolute unconditional support that allows me to do this work and shine in my own light. It's not possible without all of you. So thank you very much. Uh, so let's begin, Mark, by you sharing a little bit about yourself, the context of this work that you bring through
Sure.
your enterprise, being at full potential, and maybe shine the light a little bit upon conversations that matter and its offering in India. Uh, what
Yeah,
motivates you to do this work?
beautiful. Well, thank you very much, Amrita, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. I'm really happy to be here again. So a little bit about myself. Like Amrita said, I'm based in Switzerland, originally from Canada. And this Being at Full Potential enterprise or initiative was founded about 10 years ago, and I'm one of the co-founders. The original intent and idea, the vision, was to bring more depth and inner work into the organizational space. So that was where I came from. I have a background in corporate, and I felt there was such a need and a yearning for more depth. Very efficient on the doing side, but not very balanced on the being side. So that set me on this journey of being at full potential. And obviously, in the name, the focus is on the being. And I had a pretty clear idea of what that meant for me, but it was obviously not a very um, easy proposition to bring into many of the businesses um, because of it's intangible, it's difficult to grasp, and not always easy to work with. And so that was what initiated the development of the human potential framework and eventually the human potential assessment. So the conversations that matter is very much designed around the human potential framework, and we'll speak about that a little bit further. But this was really the point at which we started to become more effective at opening doors in organizations and being able to, I guess, enable deeper dialogue, deeper conversation, deeper exploration, and eventually also transformational work. So more of the breakthrough type of work that organizations, I think, are yearning for, rather than incremental improvements. So this is a little bit of background. It's been a beautiful journey, and it continues to evolve, and it's still not in the mainstream at all, but we keep pushing the boundaries, and little by little, it starts to, we start to see the adoption, I guess, and especially driven by the younger generation. And it was really the last couple of years where I felt also the need to start bringing this work more at an individual level, and also for myself as an individual to deepen into the work myself. And so this is what was the reason why we started Conversations That Matter. And this is now almost 2 years ago. And we did a full series last year, so a full 12 months. And it was a beautiful experience. Lots of great insights, got lots of great learning. Amrita joined towards the end, and she had an experience that kind of made it very clear for her that she wanted to bring this into India. So here we are now, and yeah, I mean, about India, like my co-founder, Sujit Ravindran, who, we started being at Full Potential with, is originally from India. So there's a lot of influence of the wisdom traditions in this work as well. And I've been to India many times, and, really always enjoy being there and the people. So it's also quite special for me to be able to work together with Amrita now this year. I think I'll pause here for now. I can talk a bit more about the why of Conversations That Matter, if that's helpful. A bit more about what it's about, but I think that's also part of the question. So maybe we'll
Yeah.
do that during the questions.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I remember the session that I attended was holistic view. And really that gave me that sense of holistic view itself, to be able to see the potential that this has, and bring it to India, to my friends and family and group and tribe, whichever way you like to call it. Hi, Priyanka. Glad you could be here. um, and the idea was really, for me, the synergy was so perfect. Like I was sharing with Salochna a little while earlier, that people who experience any of the work at Back to Source know that it is everything to do with the beingness of it. It doesn't stop at that beingness. That really becomes, let's say, the driver to go back and engage with the world in a more meaningful manner, so that it supports the upliftment of whichever community we're part of, wherever we are, in a manner that is self-fulfilling, as well as contributing to higher common purpose. And that being my vision at Back to Source, this seemed to be like perfect for people to continue that integration of beingness, and for new people who haven't experienced anything to get a flavor of how absolutely yummy, delicious, superb, awesome this space is, to take that leap of faith in small nuggets maybe, and then make it part of their life. But let me just begin with asking Nalina's question, which is a nice twist on our name that we selected, Conversations That Matter. And she asks, really, that who is the person it matters to? Is it me, or is it to somebody else? And so if it is to me, then shouldn't it rather be conversations that I value, versus conversations that matter? So I guess what she's really maybe inquiring through this question is, what's the benefit for me to do this program, individually? And I will leave that question with Mark to respond with your comments.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very interesting question. Conversations that I value, conversations that matter. I guess it depends a little bit on what each of us value, right? And for me, when we started the conversations that matter, what I was looking for was, I guess, a sense of community. And I was looking for a space where I could go beyond the surface level conversations, because I was noticing kind of around me that there was a lot of division and a lot of like us versus them, and and the narrative didn't feel like very inspiring to me. And I'm talking mostly about, in the news and, rather than in my direct environment. But still, I had a desire for more depth, because I knew that beneath the surface, if we would connect at a deeper level, we would be able to maybe not transcend our differences, but at least accept each other and remove the judgment and be able to listen and be able to move things forward in more productive ways. And so that was really, one of the reasons for me to create this, because that's what I valued. I really put a lot of value in that. And so that for me was a conversation that mattered at the time, and it continues to matter to me today. And this, me, is it benefiting me or other people? I think I don't really make a distinction there, because I think if I'm benefiting myself, if I'm doing something that I'm yearning for, then that's going to get reflected in how I show up with other people around me, right? And they will benefit from that too. So it's always sort of that connection between myself and others.
Mm,
And that's also, I think part of the benefit is that we don't just do the exploration in a safe, group environment, and then go off back into our day-to-day lives and forget about it for 2 weeks and then come back 2 weeks again. But what we're going to try to do is to put into practice some of the insights and make them really tangible and actionable, so that we can go and practice that with our colleagues and with our families. And
mm,
what we'll see is, because our being we're showing up differently in those environments, we're going to see people actually also respond differently. And that, I think, is the beauty really of this work. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, thank you. For me, what you said towards the end, in terms of it, how we are showing up in a conversation is really how I hold this program. And in the way that we show up, I stand to benefit from that, and maybe the other also finds meaning, joy, inspiration, whatever it is that they choose to take. But it's making a conscious choice in terms of how I'm showing up and allowing my beingness to be the guiding light in every conversation, and changing my life and maybe the world one conversation at a time is how I see this program. Uh, but it's, again, this is another question by Ruchi, which ties in beautifully here. And Sulochana was asking this similar question before we started. But how does this program contribute to my own journey of personal transformation? And I'm sure that, you've touched upon it already. You've already got the gist of it, but I really want to honor all the questions that have come in. So, if you can share a little bit more in terms of how it contributes to an individual's journey of personal transformation, Mark.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I actually love this question too, because transformation and personal growth is something that takes place, that needs time, and it happens, um, I would say, gradually. Like it can happen very quickly, but it also needs time to get really anchored and sustained. And it's typically when we look back after, when if we're doing a coaching with a client, or if we're being coached, it's typically when we look back after the whole process. Let's say it's a 6 months process, and and we realize how far we've come, and we realize how many things have evolved. And I think it's the same idea here, is that the sustaining it over time and having this very deliberate and disciplined approach to showing up every 2 weeks and having a framework that guides us in that, right? The 23 elements of the human potential house being at the core of how we're navigating this. What I have seen last year when we did it, and what I very much believe in, is that is the key to the transformational aspect of our personal growth.
Mm,
That it's over the arc of that year, over the arc of time, that we start to see how much we're evolving and growing and how much impact it's having in our life.
mm.
So there's something about commitment and discipline, and yeah, doing it together. I think that is very powerful.
Yeah, there is, and it's interesting that you say that, and we've also in our offering said that there's a whole 25 weeks that you can sign up for, and that's the commitment that you speak about. But we've also given people the option, in my great desire for people to just feel this beingness piece of, you can like drop in for a single session, or you can do blocks of 7. So if you can, share what's, the benefit. Yes, there is a benefit to long term, but if I just come in for a single session or just do a block of 7, how are they interlinked? Will I miss out, or do I still stand to gain? uh, I know the answer to it, but I will let you respond to it first.
Yeah, I think you still stand to gain. Like each individual session is standalone in a way, because you might say, well, this week and it'll be announced every time, right? Which dimension. But let's say the dimension that we're focusing on is trust, and somebody goes, oh yeah, that's really something that I feel is really important for me right now, is to deepen into my own trust, right? Or maybe um, practice trusting other people around me more. So they might say, okay, I'm going to join this one in particular, and they will get some deep experience there around trust and some deep insight. They'll come to some new awareness, and they will put that into practice. And that might just be exactly the perfect nugget of what they're looking for. Um, and the same thing with the seven sessions, right? So that would be perhaps kind of in between, like you still get kind of a larger arc, but maybe you have constraints where you say, well, there's a part of the year where I know I'm going to be blocked off, I won't be able to join. But then there's another part of the year where I really would like to have some sustained kind of elements to it. Then there's the option to take 7 slots, right? So maybe 2 times 7 or 1 times 7, and then a few singles, right? So all of those configurations are possible. And for sure, there's benefit in each individual session. But of course, that overall arc and maybe the sense of community and kind of the learning from each other that happens in the group will probably be less, of course.
Yeah. I like to say that, leaning into the same energy of trust, Mark, that the session that you sign up for, the series of sessions that you sign up for, I trust that that's really what you need. And that's why you're showing up then. It's like the universe pointing the direction, you're leaning into it.
Yeah.
And that also makes it one of the reasons why we keep the door wide open. We've shared the entire schedule each day, each Wednesday, what we're going to cover first and third Wednesday. It's already up for you to see. And you can choose to, lean into any that you want, all that you want. But I would really encourage you to at least drop in for a few for you to really experience the magic of it. Okay, so you began when we began talking, Mark. I remember you were sharing that your vision for this was how you had viewed the organizational context, and that's really what got you to work towards creating an alternate reality through being at full potential. But I would like to just, if you could share a little bit about who do you think this program is for? Is it like for corporate executives, the program that we're offering, Conversations That Matter? Is it like for corporate executives so that they can bring more of that beingness? Or is it for entrepreneurs, homemakers, students? women, since there's so many here on this call, and or also, I mean, or is it just for everybody and anyone? How do you say, is this program for me? How do I decide whether this is the program I want to jump into?
Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely wouldn't characterize it by um, kind of those demographics, right? Like, am I a professional? Am I an executive? Am I a homemaker? Am I, a coach? Like all of that, I feel is not really the criteria. Um, Gender is definitely not the criteria. I think the criteria is um like readiness. I don't know. Like that's the best. Like, do you feel, does it speak to you? Do you feel the call in your heart, even if there's still a lot of unknowns? Like we're trying to answer all the questions, but there's always going to be an element of unknown and mystery. But the heart, I think, knows if it feels right,
Yeah.
and to trust that, I guess, is the most important thing. So whoever feels some call, some pull in this direction, I think is the right person, is the right person for this kind of journey.
Nice. Yeah, and at least everyone here on this call I know is on their own personal transformation journey, and they've said yes to the call for sure. But if you can share a little bit about what exactly, and I'm don't want you to go to demonstrate the whole session. We'll leave that for when we start. Or if people haven't heard the recording, just type it into the chat box. I'll send you the recording of our last session where we actually demonstrated what a mini version of a Conversations That Matter series would be like. But if you can share a little bit in terms of the structure, the flow, on how you have designed the session and how it will be facilitated, please. It would be helpful, I think, to everyone here.
Yeah. So I knew this question was coming up, so I was thinking about how to best describe it. And what the image that came to mind was like a U. Maybe some of you are familiar with the U theory and your U. And I think there's something similar in that. And it's like there's a starting point, right, at the top of the U here. And that is our current kind of expression or relationship to a certain dimension. So I'm going to take collaboration versus competition, right? It's one of the dimensions of the house. Collaboration versus competition. And so, we start with sort of sensing into what does that mean to me today? Where in my life is there competition? Where in their life is there more collaboration? And we explore and what is possible when there's more collaboration. So there's kind of a discussion about that. And then, there's a deepening, right? So kind of going down the U and maybe there's something about what is the emotion behind collaboration? What is the emotion behind competition?
Mm.
Right. And there we start to sense that, yeah, under competition, maybe there's a sense of scarcity or fear or, lack. There's not enough. And under abundance, maybe I feel in those situations, it feels like, well, there is abundance, in collaboration. There's more than enough to go around. So we start to get in touch with that. And and then maybe start sharing some personal experiences where competition, for example, is hindering us, or where we would like to shift that into more of a collaborative environment. And so maybe that is, a story that somebody shares about, like at work, what is going on, um, and um, and how is it showing up at work? How is competition showing up? So trying to get really specific. And one example could be you notice that people aren't sharing information very openly,
Mhm.
right? So there's kind of withholding of information, and that is an expression of a competitive environment. It's an expression of the lack or the fear, or maybe it's talking about other people behind their back. There's also an element of competition there in a way. So that really gets into a deeper layer of awareness, and from that place of awareness, we can start to make new choices, right? So I think to be able to make new choices, you first have to go a bit deeper into what is actually going on here. What do I actually desire and yearn for? And then we can say, well, I can't change the other person. I can't change the setting and the organization, but what I can change is how I am showing up and how I'm behaving. And maybe what it means is, I'm going to proactively share a bit more
Mm,
information. I'm going to reveal a little bit more about myself or about my work or about things. And so to become that change that we want to see, to really live into it. And then to start just to notice, like not being attached to how other people respond, but start to become an observer of how other people are responding. Um, and that might then be the exercise that a person chooses to take on, over the next 2 weeks in between sessions. So this is, and then you, of course, then the U goes up again, right? We're in a different place at the end.
mm,
There's been a shift, there's been a deepening, and then there's a shift, and there's new awareness and new types of action. Um, so I think that is a nice, or I felt that was kind of maybe a more practical way of explaining what the benefit is and how it kind of works. And every
yeah.
time it's going to be different. There's not like a very step-by-step process that we follow. It is a bit organic, but as a facilitator, I'm always looking for what is trying to make it as specific as possible, trying to make it tangible, trying to ask for examples, and trying to take each of us a little bit deeper into our awareness of understanding what's going on.
Yeah.
So what we will not do is to theorize and conceptualize and talk on the surface about what collaboration means and why it's better than competition.
Mm,
So that there's not a lot of value in that when it comes to our personal growth, in my experience, in my opinion.
yeah. Yeah. It's yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And the I love the idea that there is and we're not going to get into a situation where we're teaching about a dimension of the house, and at the
No.
same time we're offering a space where we can each individually deepen our awareness about that specific aspect,
Yeah.
uh, and then harness the collective wisdom of the group to be able to determine a course of action or choice that we want to bring and practice into the world in within the context that we work in. And I think that in addition to facilitating the conversation, one of the things that we take on, Mark and myself, will be to offer a challenge in a playful fun way, not being prescriptive about it, but just from our own experience. And there will be lots in the group that comes in as well, but just from our own experience to share something that will support you to integrate that and make it more practical in your context, in your world. And then when you come back to the next session, you have an opportunity to share, how that went for you. And we can all celebrate it, learn from it. Maybe nothing happened, and that's fine as well. But the fact that you tried to integrate it is worth celebrating. So that's really the flavor of each of the sessions and the way that we've envisaged them. I see Nalina has joined, and Nalina's, you have to listen to the recording, Nalina, for I
Yes.
answered your question first.
Oh, I
So
missed it.
you'll have to go back and listen to the
I
recording.
will, most
But
certainly.
we've been talking so much about this dimension of the house, dimension of the house. Mark spoke about one aspect, like trust or competition versus collaboration is another aspect of the house. So I'm just going to shift gears a bit and ask Mark to share a little bit about this framework that you created. How did you come to it? We're calling it a house, and we're going to make it our home over the next 25 weeks. So, if you can share a little bit more about the framework, these elements, and how it's interwoven into this journey that we are calling
Yeah.
conversations that matter.
So in the beginning, I shared a little bit about why we created the framework, right? It was a way to help organizations, to meet organizations where they're at, right? If we wanted to do deeper work with them, we had to find a way to make it more tangible, relevant. Frameworks help with that, assessments help with that. So yeah, that was really the starting point. And then, there was a very big piece of research, obviously, and a lot of bringing together of different sources of knowledge and wisdom to answer the question, what is the yearning of our spirit? I think that is the best way of describing what that overall intention was for Sujit and I when we started this journey. What does the spirit yearn for? Right? What is our being? What ignites our being? What really brings our being to life? And we had this amazing, map of all the different elements, from our own experience and from the teachers and from our just everything kind of put together. And we started to see different clusters. And those clusters then started to take shape. And we started to see that there was actually a kind of possibility of lining this up as a framework and as a house. So it was a very, very organic bottom-up approach, not necessarily the most scientific approach. So, I'm not claiming that this is the scientifically validated approach to human potential development. Although now, 10 years later, I can say very confidently that we have lots of evidence and data and practical application that does give a high level of confidence that it does do what it's supposed to do, right? That it does measure what it's supposed to measure, and that it can do it in a reliable and in a valid way. But that's not really important for this context. But I think what is important is that this was a very bottom-up approach, and it was driven by a very deep question of what ignites us, what makes us come alive as human beings, and what unites us as human beings. Right? There's a lot that divides us, a lot of things on the surface that divides us, but there's also elements that unite us in who we are. So things like our capacity for curiosity, our capacity for trust, our capacity for compassion, a yearning to make impact and have a sense of, doing something for the greater good. I think these are things that no matter where you go, no matter what culture you're from, we can all relate to that. And that's also one of the really beautiful things about when we've taken this work out into the world through our certification programs and different projects we've done. We've seen that it doesn't matter where people are. They can sense into it and they can relate to it. And there's a feeling of, yes, there's some deeper truth here that I can relate to. And so that is one of the most beautiful things that I have found, is that it's a unifying element of human nature. Amrita said so beautifully that it started as a house, as a framework, and a house, it's kind of impersonal. And over the years, my journey into the house has also, it's also been a bit of an adventure. So, being the creator doesn't necessarily mean I have a very intimate relationship with it. For me, it also has been a process of deepening into it, and the conversations that matter has helped. There's, many different things that, I've done over the years where I started to realize that it's no longer a house, but it has become a home. It's become like coming home to who I really am. And that was a really big revelation, because we didn't have that when we started. That understanding we didn't really have. It came over time. And then, of course, the connection with back to source is also very beautiful, because coming home to who we are and coming back to our source is different ways of saying the same thing. So
Yeah. I I'm like so touched by your honesty and vulnerability in the which way you share it, and everyone here probably knows, I mean, it's quite evident as to how we decided to collaborate with each other. It's really because of this amazing energy of authenticity that you bring, Mark. So I'm really happy uh, to be able to use our home as a framework to walk the path back to source with whoever chooses to join us. So thank you. But also there are many people here who I've known for many, many years, and they know my relationship with assessments and how much I have like spoken about. It's so much better to access your inner being rather than have it assessed. But having said that, the framework also that this house framework or this home framework that has been that Mark has co-created, which is the framework will be that we will be using through the Conversations That Matter series, is has a human potential assessment. And I say from my own experience that I took that assessment with a very, very open mind on my birthday to see what it reveals for me. And it was such an interesting conversation uh, to be able to understand those aspects of my beingness and how they're showing up. Some showed up absolutely accurately, some showed up, "Hey, this is not what it means," but it allowed for such a meaningful conversation that Mark and I had when he did a one on one debrief with me. And that's also what we offer to everyone who signs up for the entire program. To I mean, anybody can do the assessment. Mark has been most generous in making it available to the entire world at no cost. But if you choose to do that assessment, and if you choose to join the program for the entire 25 weeks, Mark also spends an hour with you to debrief that report. And it's for the first time, I'm enthusiastic about an assessment like this. So, I know Mark says that the assessment, whether you do the assessment or you don't do the assessment, it's not a, an essential ingredient to be part of this series. But I just, will hand back to Mark to speak a little bit more about this human potential assessment and how it can also inform the journey, even though it may not be necessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you said it beautifully, Amrita. And that's a wonderful acknowledgement, by the way, for somebody who has said no to assessments, to open up, and see that there is, that there is a different way to do assessments, and a different, not just to do assessments, but a different way to um, hold space for the discovery of what the assessment means. And I think one of the big difference, so obviously what we measure is different than what most assessments measure, but what is most different is the discovery process that we use. And we've taken a very strong stand against telling people what the results mean, right? So typically that's what I think we're familiar with, is that you get an output and you have an expert tell you this is what it means and this is what you should be doing. And we flipped that around and basically said the assessment is just a mirror, potential mirror of the inner state of an individual, the beingness. But the way it gets interpreted is very much, it could be many different ways. There's many different ways in which it can be interpreted. And the only person who really can interpret it is the person themselves. So our role as the facilitator is to coach the person through the report and help them find their own story in the data. So what makes sense for them? How do they interpret and find meaning in the results? And what it does is it gives a much higher sense of ownership to the next steps, and also to the personal growth. So I think in relation to the conversations that matter, it could be very helpful to, at the beginning, sometime, any time along the way, but maybe at the beginning, to do the assessment, to have a debrief, and to have already an idea of, okay, these are the 4 or 5 dimensions I know that I really want to work on. So, but they're also connected, like they're not totally independent. Everything is connected, right? They're all interdependent. So when you work on one, it can have a benefit on another, that's very much like that. So it can be a map, a very nice map to use in conjunction with the series of conversations that matter. But it's totally not a requirement.
Hmm. Yeah. Thank you. But I would I'm an advocate of this assessment now, having experienced it myself. But let me just take a pause, and there are a few more tactical questions that I will speak to and address. But if there is anything that anyone wants to share, maybe a question, maybe a comment, or anything, it'll be good to have your voice in as well, to share anything that's coming up for you or anything that you need to gain more clarity.
I
Yeah,
see some
hi.
nice comments from Nalina in the chat. Maybe we can go to that in a second.
Somebody's
Go ahead.
voice was coming in, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mine,
Yeah.
Sulochna, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I just want to sort of, while you were talking, it struck me is that one of the typical problems that most people face, and it includes me, is overthinking, right? So, I'm sorry, I'm guilty of not knowing what these themes are, but just to, get an understanding, how does this sort of link with, dealing with overthinking, or will this, you know, at any point of this journey, will that be addressed? Because when you are trying to make a transformation from who you are and who you want to be, there is always that element of overthinking that seeps in. So, at least for me. So,
Mhm.
and that is one thing that I really have been working on, and I really want to get over. But at cognitive level, yes, I do understand. But when it comes to the being state, it doesn't get translated. So, would this journey help in that direction?
Mm. Yeah, beautiful question. So 2 things come to mind. One is that we are, very, very deliberate and in, creating an environment that is safe, that has certain standards where, we can, when we get together for that hour, where we can really show up in our beingness. And it might not happen immediately, like the first, it might take a little bit to really get to that level of trust and knowing each other and building the right safety in the group and all of that. But very quickly, we're going to get to a point where we can really settle into it. And what happens then is we move from sort of engaging just with our intellect to also engaging with our intuition and our heart, and it starts to open up. And I'm a big believer that it's not, dropping one for the other, but it is really in the coming together of all of those capacities. So it's not about shutting down, the intellect and the capacity for thinking, but it's just about inviting the other capacities as well. And so the space will be very conducive for that. That's the first thing. The other thing with overthinking is just do it, right? Just do it. And that's where the challenges will come in, the practical challenges that every session will end with, right? Is a sort of each person kind of claiming like, yeah, I'm going to practice this. I got this insight, and this is my takeaway, and this is what I'm going to practice in the next 2 weeks. And like Amrita said, maybe we don't manage to do it, sometimes, but there'll be times where we do. And that is also when the brain gets shut down a little bit, right? The overthinking kind of stops because we just do it. We don't overthink it, we just do it. And it's in that doing that we can then realize that, hey, that was actually easier than I thought, or it had unexpected, positive impact. And that satisfies the brain, right? It calms the brain. It's like I'm still alive. I haven't um, nothing terrible has happened, right? I tried something new, and things are still fine. So gradually, the need to overthink and for the mind to try and control things will gradually go down as well with time. I really believe that. I don't
Great,
know if
Exactly.
thanks.
that helps.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, it does, and thanks, and that's a very, very encouraging statement, because I am sort of now encouraged to sort of move ahead in this journey. So yeah, thanks a lot, Mark.
Yeah. Just to add my two little bits, Salochna, I think that as we, this container or this space that Mark and I create together, and as it meets with your commitment to
Yeah,
go through the journey, I think the coming together of that leads to the softening of that overthinking. So I don't think that it will go
go
away,
away. Yeah,
but it will begin to dissolve.
right.
And as it begins to dissolve, um, it's sounding poetic, but let me still say it. You will begin to evolve into the fullness of your being. But that's really how I'm seeing it and holding it as an intention as well. In support of your this overthinking that you've shared so many times.
Yeah.
That I really hope and wish that for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, anyone else? Anything else you want to share or add or ask?
I feel like sharing one very simple thing that I actually really loved the name Conversations That Matter. And I had an instant connect with it. And I feel since the time I have taken, I have started this journey of going deeper and really reflecting on small things. Um, uh, with time, whenever I meet my friends, it was like there was a time when I'm with, in my social circle or with my friends, and I'm like, what are we doing? What are we talking about? And why are we talking about the same things again and again, which are so superficial or so worldly? And we meet each other, yet it feels we don't know each other. And then suddenly one day we get to know something, and we're like, oh my God, we've known each other for such a long time, but we didn't know they had this part of life and all of that. And so gradually, in my own way, I try to have a conversation that matters whenever I meet my friends. Especially, if we meet on some festival like Diwali or New Year's, talking about, um, you know, wo- like highlights for the year gone by, or highlight, what is it that we really want to do for the year that's coming, or something that they're just comfortable with. And whenever we have done that, it has taken a little bit of time, but could sense that you know, there is a desire. Like, how Mark was saying, what does the
Absolutely.
soul yearn for? And I
Mm.
could sense that there is a yearning in people to go deeper. Maybe they're not able to get the a safe space or a platform or a company or just time to do
Mm.
that. But when you ask that question, and it's a safe space, it happens. And it's like suddenly, you can feel the temperature has dropped a little.
Mm.
And there is a little bit of, it's just a completely different, beautiful energy. And it's so powerful and so meaningful, and it connects us. It's such a beautiful way. So I think it's going to be really beautiful and very meaningful.
Wow. So well said. Mm. Beautiful.
And I've had this great joy of witnessing this unfolding of Priyanka over the years, and so I resonate with everything that you share, and the quality of your being that you've begun to radiate in this world. So It's so beautiful.
Oh.
Yes, Priyadarshini, you have a question, and then we'll come to Nalina.
So actually, my internet is not good, so I'm going on and off. I'm sorry for that. Not a question. The reason why I wanted to attend this open house and wanted to enroll this course is that I am a teacher and I'm also a motivation speaker, and I keep talking to people, and this is my kind of job or something, and I keep involved in training many people, adults and students. So when we speak, when we converse with someone, we should be, I feel that I should be able to touch the hearts of each and every being whom I associate with. That is one aspect. And if I speak, then I should also follow. Just preaching is not a good idea. And it'll be a lie. So there is one more that I'm going to enroll in this course is my motivation stays for a little time. Like when I'm in speaking, when
Your voice is also staying for a little time, Priyadarshini. It's coming and going.
yeah, a strong habit. I was talking about habits that I wanted to create in me because 1 year, and it goes on continuously, so that I'll be able to succeed in this with consistency. Yeah, that's what I wanted to share. It's not a question, but I'm looking forward to it.
Nice.
Nice. And you're happy.
It broke a little bit from here and there, but I think what I heard was a beautiful connection between the work we do on ourselves and the impact it has on others. And I love what you said about, if I want to open hearts and to relate to the people that I serve in this way, then I need to start with myself as well. And I think that is such a it's such a beautiful way of describing, I think, what this is about as well, right? It really is taking care of ourselves so we can, and practicing who we want to be in the world, right? So that connection between, am I doing it for myself or am I doing it for others? I think we're coming back to that original question a little bit too, right? Yeah, Nalina, I think, was asking that.
Yeah, Nalina.
Yeah, not so much an ask, but I just wanted to say that just this theme, and I was curious just for the theme that when Amrita shared, but listening to both of you now, I just found a placeholder for something that's been happening so amazingly in my life. This is with my school friends, and that was a fairly long time ago. We've been constantly in touch. This is my middle school to high school friends. What we spoke about, and if I'm just trying to put a placeholder, let's say, of each decade as it progressed, our conversations have evolved to now actually some of us really holding spiritual conversations because we're all at a different life stage now. The depth of what spontaneously we're able to pick up, and sometimes even continuing a conversation which we did probably when we just graduated from school. Just taking one name, this lady Indra. She's now she's the owner of a school, and she runs a lovely school for half of them being underprivileged children. Now, talking to Indra is just like she just calls up and says, you know what should I be telling the teachers for their, the teachers, they tell me a theme to talk about. So those things. So we don't really need to wait for someone to explain some of these close friends. I mean, so it just evolves. And I can think of that in actually playing out. And I never knew there was a word like this earlier.
Nice. Yeah, it's the richness of friendship and the richness of conversations is what you've interwoven together. Nice.
Yes, absolutely. And one feeds so positively into the other.
Yeah. We're almost at the top of the hour, so I'm just going to check in if there are any more questions or any comments anyone would like to share. And the tactical questions I can always address, in an email that I send out to all of you. That's a little less relevant, and your voice is more relevant. So, anything else anyone would like to share or add?
I'll put in the chat the link to the Human Potential platform if anybody would like to check it out.
And that platform, as Mark is putting it in, is really his offering to the world. And it's you can take this assessment completely at no cost to you if you to you to experience it. And I really think that it's a wonderful way to spend time with yourself and uh, take this assessment. I never thought.
Yeah, and on the platform, there's the assessment, but there's also a lot of resources around each of the dimensions. So you'll see the house and you can click on each one of the dimensions, and that will open up kind of a learning space where you can watch some videos, you can access some inspirational resources, you can access some of the exercises and challenges for each one of the 23 dimensions. So it gives you a bit of a sense, yeah, the depth as well within the house. And yeah, we'll be using bits and pieces of it through the series as well.
So before
So
I
is this something, sorry, Amrita, I just have
go
one
ahead.
last question.
Yep.
Can we share this link with people who are
Please.
outside the cohort, or, friends who we
Yeah,
think
please.
can really benefit out of this?
Absolutely. Yeah, please share
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so
You're
much.
such, I just looked up the link. You're just generous, Mark. You said you use it the way it works, and if you feel inspired, then donate. This is really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to sign up or log in.
Login
So
is what it
sign up. If you're the first
Sign up.
time, then you sign up. If you
Mhm.
already have an account, then you just log in.
I don't
Mm.
have. Okay.
Yeah, so
Ha,
just
so
sign up then. Yeah.
will- yes, I will certainly do that.
But
I
you have
see.
to sign up for the course separately. That's different.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's
That's in a
different.
separate space.
Yes.
Just
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
right.
you can log into
Yeah.
the course as well.
Course details anyway you will send by
I
mail,
will.
right, Amrita?
I will definitely do that. But I
Okay.
just want to check in with Vinod, who has been quite silent, and I don't want our, it's not gender specific. So anything that you want to share or add, or anything that came up for you, Vinod?
Thank you. Yeah, no, nothing came up because it's the first time I'm watching these things, and I was quite silent on this because I was just hearing all the things. It was very nice. In fact, I look forward for the details which you are going to send Amrita after this. And I was just looking at the link which Mark had sent. That's very nice. I was just clicked on it. Very nice. So let's see how it's going to take forward, because I'm coming totally from a different background. I mean, I was into business development. We were into the airline consultancy job. So I used to get more of business. And when I bring the business to the home, I mean, to my office, it totally breaks down because operation team is like, I mean, today's a good day, today's a bad day. He said, she said, all those things were there. I'm also trying to get some kind of, where I can manage the operation team. In fact, I tried a lot of, what do you call, the coach, the trainers, the mentors. I mean, you've got different hats over there, but nothing works out. So I tried my own way of handling the leadership team, and it started working out. So I'm looking forward to such programs where I can just really bring it to the office. Because it's very easy to get the business, but it's very hard to, maintain the business. That's what I learned.
Really,
So I was silent. I was silent because only it's the first time I'm just seeing people in this platform. So probably I look forward for it. Yeah.
Let's catch up offline. I'm just sending you a number. Apart from, of course, transformation coaches now at, the DNA thing, but I'm otherwise also a business coach.
Oh, okay.
Great. So before I give it, to Mark to close, just one piece I think that I would like to share, for those who are considering joining this program, and I really hope you do experience all of it, part of it, some of it, your choice. But do come by. There was a question around the size of the cohort, and how does that work? And I thought
On a
it
call.
would be meaningful to address that here.
I'm on a call.
Okay, so I'll put you on mute if you're on that call or this call, but let me just share the piece around so we envisage there'll be around 12 to 15 people on a regular basis part journeying with us through the 25 weeks, and every now and then there will be a few drop-ins. So we want to keep the program intimate, the community close, and so that we can all really partner together as we you know charter this path that over this whole year. So it's a small group, an intimate group, and each one of you is welcome to be part of it. So with that, I'll hand it back to Mark to really share whatever are your closing comments that comes to you, and then we'll bring today's session to a close.
Thank you, Amrita. Yeah, no, it was wonderful. Really enjoyed the the discussion, and especially the last 20 minutes, the questions and sort of the open exchange. I picked a card this morning, and there's a deck of cards that I like to work with, and we'll probably practice with as well during the conversations. And it was created by a good friend of mine who's an artist and has been involved with the work that we do for many years. And a lot of the art has been inspired by the workshops that we've done and the things that people have shared during those workshops. And so once in a while, I like to pick a card for inspiration. And this one, when I first picked it, I wasn't really sure how it related to, today's call and what we want to talk about in Conversations That Matter. But now I think it's quite powerful. I'll share it here. I don't know if you can see that. Holding space in the eye of the storm.
Yeah, very pretty.
And what I realized is that actually it's a very beautiful way of thinking about also the conversations that matter, because there's so much going on in our lives, and sometimes it can feel like a storm, and so much pressure and stress and things that we have to do and expectations that people have of us, and then to carve out that special sacred space every 2 weeks to come together. It's like holding space in the eye of the storm, and that's where we really reconnect with our power, and we reconnect with our ability to evolve things, to change things, to not let the circumstances be in control of us, but for us to respond, differently to the circumstances in our lives. So I really kind of like this idea of holding space in the eye of the storm as a way to represent, what this is all about. So maybe that's a nice way to close today.
Nothing more really needs to be said after that, but thank you all for being here. And I look forward to seeing you. I know I'll see each one of you, so I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
And
Thank you,
have a good
everyone.
day, rest of the day, but thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.